This is Governor Bobber. I like good day, doctors.
George Allen here. Good day, doctors.
Go! You're watching Dr. Politics.
They're Dr. Politics. He's the one to see. Breaking down the news with sharp analysis. From Congress halls to campaign trails, he tells the truth when all else fails. They're Dr. Politics. Dr. Politics. Exposing the spin, the lies and tricks. Dr. Politics. Dr. Politics. He calls it straight, no politics as usual. Love from backroom deals to primetime fights. He sheds some light and sets things right. Debates, elections, policy. He cuts through all the DC sleaze. Oh, Dr. Politics. He's got the facts. Dr. Politics. No holding back. Dr. Politics. Go away. Dr. Politics, he's got the facts. Dr. Politics, no holding back. Dr. Politics.
Hey, and we are live. It is February 11th, almost tax day.
February.
This is-
Wait, April.
Did I say February?
Yeah.
April 11th. It feels like February today, though.
You
Outside.
almost want to go back to Groundhog Day.
Yeah, I know. It feels like February outside. I don't know if you've been
Oh,
outside.
man,
or not.
yeah. What happened here? Mother Nature, what are you doing to us?
Well, we had what we call in Maryland Fall Spring 1. This is Winter 2. And next week we'll be back at Fall Spring 2. And then we'll have another fake winter. Then we'll go straight to Hell's front porch, as they'd say. But it's been a busy week. You know, the tariffs are on pause for 90 days for everybody except China. And it was just fine.
Well, I mean, look, my stance on this is I don't mind. I didn't mind some tariffs. I want to remain a free trader. And so tariffs are kind of an anathema to me, but Trump's ability to use this as a negotiating tool, I think, is good. But I really think he went way too far with the tariffs he enacted because they were not really strategic. They were just kind of this blanket willy-nilly thing. Where when you looked at it, you're like, why is there a tariff on this island with penguins or whatever? Why are these things happening? And why do we have to have such heavy tariffs on other countries? I don't have a problem in general with. I think Trump's fight's really with China. It's really not with the rest of the world. China's the number one target, and the rest of the world comes behind it. But part of the problem, Dwight, I think is just that you put all these tariffs off, and then you say, well, 70 countries are calling, they want to negotiate or whatever.
And Dave's back.
Yeah, there we go. It's that you can't negotiate with 70 countries at once.
Yeah.
It would have been far better to look at your top 10 or whatever and work on those, get those done, and then you can move down the line or whatever. He is keeping 10% minimum, I think, tariffs across the board. I don't have a general problem with that right now. Not my favorite thing, but yeah, I was doing my show the other day, and I was my co-host is all MAGA, all in. Trump can do no wrong, kind of a thing like that. And we were getting into it a little bit on tariffs, and I said, he needs to pause these tariffs because we saw what happened to the stock market. We saw what happened to consumer confidence, and this was not.
Well, it did shoot up. Was it Wednesday or Tuesday? It shot up like 2,000 points.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah.
But it came down the next day.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. So that was just actually yesterday. I mean, yesterday, well, 2 days ago, it went up. When the announcement was made, the stocks went back up, and
Mhm.
then yesterday they took some profits, and then today it went back up again. So we're going to have some choppy, goings on here because it's not settled. I mean, that trade war. I mean, we're up to what 145% tariff on
Yeah.
China. China's at 125% on us. Uh, you know, as you know, David, we talked last week about trying to reindustrialize America. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And as much as I hate to say it, we kind of need Chinese goods for now until we can maybe bring some things
Mhm.
back. Producing things in America is expensive.
It is. By the way, here is a couple of things that is kind of in our favor. Like at the end of the day, China loses the trade war if they keep this up. Frankly, we're their biggest customers. Who's going to buy the stuff they sell at Walmart in the $1.25 or $2 store or the $5 store, whatever they rename it to? Uh, we've got more of a diverse economy than the Tricoms do. Frankly, that helps us.
Yeah.
We can feed ourselves. The Chinese can't. They're relying on soybean exports from America. Uh, there is a spirit of American resilience. Kind of like during World War II. Remember, we had rationings. You couldn't buy new cars. You couldn't do this. You couldn't do that. And that was for the war effort. And I think the resilience. And they're communists on the other side, frankly.
Well, you know, I think of it as, I remember after World War II when it was just us. I mean, we were the big key part of the
They kind of
economy.
still are.
We still sort of are. But what's happened now is other countries have come along, and it's like when I was a kid, when we all were kids, they talked about the developed world and the non-developed world. But
I thought we
now,
used to call it the third world.
third world. But you see
And then
now
there was a
everything's
fourth
so
world too, by the way. I don't know if you remember that. There was a fourth world designation. The first world was us. The second world was the communists. Then you had the
yeah.
third world, and which I think now we're calling them the developed or the Knicks. They're actually now
Well,
probably the Knicks, the New York Knicks.
okay. Well, I remember the bricks. But the
Yeah.
point, the thing is, now I can understand to some degree we should demand more fairness. We overlooked it in the past because these countries are growing and all, and we needed them to grow too because we want to sell them stuff. But at this point, I kind of understand Trump to some degree in trying to level the playing field, and I agree with that. I also agree with Don, though. We're not going to reindustrialize the United States. You're not going to bring back all these manufacturing jobs out of China, and I don't know that we'd want to.
And here's here one. One of the key reasons a lot of these industrial jobs left the country, not only cheaper labor, it was also the environmental regulations that were put in
Yeah.
by folks like Bill Ruckelshaus over at the EPA. I mean, if you remember, our cities were dirty. They were dirty. There was
Mm-hmm.
a reason everybody went to the suburbs,
Yeah.
because they wanted clean air, little
Yeah.
green space.
Mm-hmm.
But we did a really good job cleaning up these cities. How do we do that? We basically ended factory production. Look at Baltimore, Bethlehem Steel. I mean, other than not just economic stuff, but all the some environmental regulations drove Bethlehem Steel over at Sparrows Point into bankruptcy, and that was the job engine of Baltimore City, Baltimore County, even Harford County, Carroll County. People would come down, for good paying steelworker jobs in Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
But then you had the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, this act, that act. The EPA went. I really wish the EPA gets shut down by Doge. Frankly,
Mm-hmm.
there's no real. We can have the Interior Department can do what the EPA does. We don't need to have two separate agencies. Frankly,
Well, all this talk of
or
trade
cabinet
got me.
actually departments.
All this talk got me to order. I picked it up from eBay. Ross Perot's "United We Stand," and it's his little book. He talks about all the trade. I remember he's the one that came up with the notion of the giant sucking sound.
That's right, the
All the cops.
giant sucking sound. That was a great line, right? I mean, that
Yes,
Yeah.
it was.
Well, here's what I'm wondering. On the front page, It says Ross Perot. Do you think that's a real autograph or is that auto penned?
It's probably a real autograph. If you feel it on the backside, do you feel the ridges on the backside of the sheet?
I mean, it wasn't a Joe Biden auto pen. Nah, it feels smooth on the back.
Okay, it's printed. It's printed by
Yeah.
the
Darn, I thought
publisher.
I got his autograph cheap. But
I've actually got a Ross Perot button somewhere and a Ross Perot for president bumper sticker. I figured they'd be worth something one day.
well, I voted for HW, and
So did I.
my concern as a kid is I thought Perot. I thought he was a little nutty, but also my concern was that he would help get Bill Clinton elected. And I've
He
always
did.
I don't vote for third party candidates.
Yeah,
Um,
and Ross Perot had an axe to grind against the Bush family.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that's why
He wanted to
he
be
wanted
in
to.
charge of some veterans commission that he didn't get because he didn't ask. I think, as the story
Well,
goes.
also the POWs. Perot continued to insist that we had POWs back in Vietnam, and Bush apparently was part of some commission that said, no, they're all dead really at this point or returned.
Hmm.
So Perot never liked that.
Didn't Rambo go back to Vietnam to bring back some POWs
That's
in
right.
the 80s?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was classic. But Perot, the reason it made me think of this book is Trump talks about a lot of the things Perot did. And remember,
Yes.
Trump was kind of a Perot guy because Trump was flirting with the idea of getting the Reform Party nomination.
And let's also not forget, I'm not trying to throw cold water on this, but Dick Gephardt, Bob Kerrey, Nebraska,
Yeah.
both were advocating a trade war against Japan when they ran for president.
Yeah.
You had Bob Kerrey on the ice with a hockey stick saying, "An American that can play defense."
Mm.
Was referring to Canadians dumping lumber in America.
And that other guy from Arizona, Babbitt. Remember that guy, Babbitt?
Yes, Bruce
Bruce
Babbitt.
Yeah.
He never would have been governor if it weren't for Evan Meekum.
No, right. That's probably right. Correct. Yeah. Meekum and his lines. Yeah. So that's true.
Yeah.
But the sad thing is,
Another Republican who had he would have had a good career, but blew it.
I know.
Yeah, that's true.
Everyone can't be Spiro Agnew, Don. Everybody can't be Spiro Agnew.
Well, also, do you remember in Texas, speaking of a Republican that had a bright future that blew it, nobody stepped on landmines like Clayton Williams. Do you remember the late Clayton
I
Williams?
remember Clayton Williams. He would have been governor, but he had, and I thought at that point it was understood Republicans stopped talking about rape. Okay.
Yeah.
Then we have this clown in Indiana who ran for the United States Senate and said
That's
there's
right.
real rape and fake rape. And it's like, what are you talking? Just shut up. He was
Yeah.
ahead in the polls, by the way, until that happened.
Yeah, that's the thing with Clayton Williams. He was up by like 13 points. You guys, I first started getting involved in politics at this time. And one stupid comment after another. I'm like, just shut the hell up. He would have won. But you know what sunk him? I think he would have survived the rape comment, all that he would have survived. But I think in the end, this is before really early voting, I guess. He did an absentee ballot. And in the absentee ballot, there were a couple ballot measures dealing with the state. And they asked him, well, how'd you vote on this or that? And he didn't know. He's like, I don't know how I vote on that one. So it's like, and you're running for
You're
governor.
better off saying it's none of your business. My vote's my vote.
I know.
I'm not even tell you who I voted for governor.
Yeah. But
I voted for a little dumpling over there.
Yeah, he blew that one. He was like Perot, a small sort of Texan, short sort of Texan with a Napoleonic complex, maybe.
Yeah.
But, he's a good guy.
But I tell you, that Democrat primary between Ann Richards and Maddox, that was dirty. I mean, that was like a filthy primary.
Yeah.
I mean, but I think I would take Ann Richards as my governor in Maryland over Wes Moore any day of the week.
Yeah, I think so, Ben. I think you'd take Mike Dukakis over.
No, I would not. No, I would not.
Mike Dukakis.
Mike Dukakis would be same-o, same-o.
It's one thing to have a Democrat, like the Zell Millers or the Scoop Jacksons or, Monahans or whatever, Sam Nunn, got a lot of variations on the theme. But, Wes Moore is just another, liberal lefty, who's trying to pose as some, level-headed, moderate Democrat. But no, I mean, they're leading us right down the road. It's just terrible where Maryland is heading. I think, especially after this last legislative session.
And in Virginia, we're not looking at great prospects either. I think Winsome can win, but we've got a Democrat potential. I don't know if she's as bad as Wes Moore, but in Spanberger.
Yeah, I
So
don't know. That race is going to be interesting because, I mean, I like Sears.
yeah,
Well,
I
I'll tell
don't.
you this: if
I just
Virginians don't vote for Winsome Sears, it's because they're all a bunch of racists.
Yeah, I just don't know if she's got the whole package of what it takes to win, statewide. Spanberger definitely has got pretty good name recognition as well.
yeah,
Um, and part of it, I think, for any election that comes up, this year and next year,
Mhm.
is just where are we, with the economy, where are these tariffs putting us? All these things. The Democrats are going to use that, as leverage, and there's no doubt that there are probably some Virginians that
Mhm.
aren't happy with Youngkin's policies and they want to reverse some of that stuff. So there'll be some backlash, but
I,
Virginia's become this
yeah.
big question mark to me.
I really think that if she had done a Bill Bowling and ran for lieutenant governor again, and Jason Morales stepped up to be run for governor, I think it'd be a different ball game. I think Jason would be because he's a much better campaigner than Winsome Sears. Nothing against Winsome Sears, but Jason's just better. I mean, Dave, you and I worked with Jason over the
oh
years,
yeah.
when he was
I
just
remember him at
a
LI.
legislator.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
with him at LI, and I saw him not too long ago, and I told him, I said, "You haven't changed a bit." Even then, he always had a suit on, and I always had a suit on, and so we were
Mhm.
like the two people that always had suits on. But he hasn't changed a bit, really. He looks the same.
So, hey, Dwight, so Winsome Sears, Boyd Rutherford. What's the difference?
I think she has more energy than Boyd did.
Mm.
She's and she wants to be governor. Boyd didn't want to be governor.
Yeah,
Actually, I don't think he really wanted to be lieutenant governor.
Yeah,
yeah,
I think you're right. I mean, I think Boyd was definitely more. He was reluctant, very much so.
yeah,
And those are the kind of leaders you want, the ones who don't want the job.
yeah. That was part of Ross Perot's appeal. He said, I wouldn't give you 2 cents for this job. I don't want it. I don't care
And
about
he
it."
was, he like President Trump was also going to work for $1.
Yeah, I guess that's right. I'll take it for $1. Yeah.
Uh, uh, on King of the Hill, they've got a guy that's like Ross Perot on there.
Okay.
I want to say it's like the guy that owns the gas company that Hank works for.
Mm. Mm.
I think it's him. There's a character on there that talks like Ross Perot. It might be Hank's dad. I
But
think it
but
is Hank's dad because he was a Vietnam vet too.
but Perot was a good man, a good American. And I'll give you an example. Before he died, he made sure to leave a nice big contribution to Donald Trump. I thought that was
Really?
great.
Did he do
Yeah,
that?
yeah, he made sure to do that. And the other thing about Perot is that he wasn't against totally the Bush family because remember, he endorsed W. He did endorse W and contribute to
Yeah.
him. So
Yes, he did in 2000. Yes,
he did do that.
and that
I
was when
thought that.
Pat Buchanan. That was when Pat Buchanan ran with Lily Falani. That
Okay.
is like the oddest of odd couples. Pat
Yeah.
Buchanan and Lily Falani for president.
Yeah. But I always thought that was a bigger story. And the media, of course, paid no attention to it because it helped W. But in 2000, on the eve of that election, Perot went ahead and endorsed him. I thought that was a big deal for
Oh, he
Perot, who
endorsed
had,
him before elections. He endorsed
maybe for
President.
governor. Maybe he
No,
supported
no,
him for
no, no.
governor.
He endorsed President Bush for president. I want to say October, maybe September,
Okay.
because one of the things because I remember he was on GMA, and that was when Charlie Gibson was doing the show, and Charlie goes, your party, and I think that's where, and he goes, well, we have a horse that won't run, so you got to find a horse that can run.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
Uh, Actually, he should have used the Dr. Phil line. The dog we have won't hunt.
Yeah. Well, Harry Byrd in Virginia used to say his view was, but in terms of nominations, he said you can't carry a dead horse. So you got a
Yeah.
good chance.
So I'm looking this up, and what I'm seeing online is that November 3rd, they're
Mhm.
saying that he endorsed Bush. It was a complete surprise.
Okay.
So
Was it? Okay.
that would have been just before the election.
All right.
Yeah. What was the election day in 2000? Was it the 5th or was it the 4th or the 6th?
Well, it's the way they phrased it there was on the eve, so it must have been the 4th.
Huh. Interesting. Because I could have swore he was on GMA and Charlie Gibb. Maybe it was after the election. He was on Good Morning America. That's possible too.
But you know, the fascinating thing about reading this book, and actually any sort of policy book from decades ago, the numbers. Because when I read this, he talks about, and we're $50 billion in debt. And I'm like, something like that. It's like, okay, make that
Oh,
trillions now.
Yeah.
please, 50 billion. That's like
Well, I don't know. I just threw that number out. But when he talks about
that's not even
billions,
an
I'm a
aircraft
trillion.
carrier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like we used to make this joke when you'd watch the old Mannix show in the 70s, and he'd want to get someone to talk. You want to get information out of him. So he'd like pull out a $10 bill. You can't get anything for a
Yeah.
$10 bill today. So there's just the
$10
inflation
bill doesn't even
difference.
get you a coffee and a bagel at Starbucks now, I think.
I know.
Yeah, but
Although,
you're right though, David, because I mean that's the thing. It's just you want some historical perspective. Read a policy book from 10 or 20 years ago,
Yeah.
and you're like, okay, so we only spent this much money. Our federal budget was only this much.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, how did we get here? How did
yeah.
we get to 36 trillion,
Yeah.
national debt? How did we get to almost a $7 trillion budget?
Yeah.
We are out of control.
Well, I'll tell you, inflation is also crazy. Because when Lucy moved to Westport, Connecticut, they had a lovely 4-bedroom home they bought, and she went to go buy some. She bought a whole house of furniture for about $3,000 in 1952 dollars. You know what $3,000 gets you today? A couch. A
Unless
couch.
you go to Bob's. Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
remember when I could go to McDonald's for $5 and get a whole combo.
I remember going to Taco Bell with $5 and get like $3 back.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But speaking of the budget,
those cheap fast food days are gone.
yeah, I know.
John, have you ever been to Del Tacos at all?
What is it?
I haven't. I've seen them, but I haven't been there. They're
They're
supposed
like
to be really good.
Yeah, they're like there's one in Melbourne, so I think I'm going to go there next time. Because I saw there's a guy that has a YouTube channel where he talks about business. He does the rise and fall and rise again and rise and fall or whatever, what destroyed Netflix or what destroyed Blockbuster and so on. But he did one on Del Tacos and Taco Bell. He goes, they're not real, they're competitors in the fact that Del Taco is the closest competitor to Taco Bell, but Taco Bell is leaps and bounds ahead of Del Tacos.
Oh.
And they've been bought by Jack in the Box.
Jack in the Box still around?
Yeah,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
still around. On
Really?
the West Coast, they're everywhere.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
I ate at one a couple of years ago in Arizona when I was out visiting my sister-in-law and brother-in-law. I'm like, Jack in the Box. I haven't
Yeah,
been to. I don't think I'd been to a Jack in the Box since I was in college at the University of Maryland. There was a Jack.
There was one over on University Boulevard down there, right? There was
Huh?
a Jack in the Box.
Yeah, I was down on University or somewhere around there.
By Riggs Road, by the bowling, not the bowling alley, but like near.
It was
Yeah,
near. It was
like close to Toys R Us.
It wasn't that far away from. It wasn't that. It wasn't terribly far away from campus. From where
it wasn't.
Where
It was like close to that Toys R Us, I think. Where because there's been a Red Barn.
It wasn't too. It was a few blocks away from Lido's, the old like jumbo supermarket.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there was also a Ponderosa's there too.
Oh, I love Ponderosa.
I ate at Ponderosa a lot as a kid. I'm thinking like,
yeah, me too.
Boy has my taste changed.
And was that like a Bonanza themed restaurant? Is that why they called it the Ponderosa? Because that was the kind of the land.
I assume so.
Yeah.
I assume like.
I mean, there's also a Bonanza restaurant. I assume they're still around, but
Because
The
Ponderosa, isn't that where they lived? The Cartwrights? They lived
That
on the
was, yeah, that was
Ponderosa?
like the estate. It was like South Fork Ranch, I guess, for them.
Yeah, I guess the
And,
Ponderosa, yeah.
yeah,
or
it was kind of a cheap place to eat and get meat, but
Yeah.
the meat was kind of tough and had plenty
but
of gristle.
my friend Chris Tudor, he used to work at the Ponderosa when he was in high school
Mm.
in Kentucky. And 'cause by then we had no Ponderosas around here, but I do remember the Ponderosa was by the Toys R Us down there. And there was actually another really good restaurant. Excuse me, another really good restaurant on Greenbelt Road called the Fireside, or the Fireplace. I think it was the Fireside. It was a two-level place. They served Lito's pizza there.
Hmm.
But the best thing there, like like you get bread at other restaurants, they give you like these like scoops of cheese, like 3 different cheeses and a bunch of crackers, and they just keep bringing those back to you. I think like I remember I went there once with Ross Pierpont and Ray, and Ross made a comment, "Oh, we didn't order that," and the woman's like, "It's free," you know. And Ross like, "You're not going to bill me for it, are you?" She goes, "No," and Ray's like, "It's complimentary, Doc." Yeah, but it was funny how Ross didn't want to pay for it.
Well, I loved Hot Chops, and they were a Maryland, started in
Yeah.
Maryland, basically.
Yep. Yeah, they were the Marriott family.
Yeah, the Marriotts. Yeah, the Hot Chops were good.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, it was good. Good
See,
deal.
Dave, do you remember when CVS had a lunch counter?
I
Or
do.
People's
Yeah,
Drugstore. They were actually
People's
The
People's.
old
Drug.
people,
I
yeah.
remember it as People's as a kid.
And they used to have like a lunch counter, as did Drug Fair.
Yeah. Oh, did they?
Kmart, some Kmart's did.
Kmart had soft pretzels, as did Kresge's.
Kresge's. My mom used to love buying the ham over there.
And then they had a McCrory's in downtown Silver Spring. I used to buy mechanical pencils that would be like $6. Well, that's actually the nice ones were about $5 to $6. I could get them there for $1.90, $1 or $1.99.
Mm.
And I still have some of those mechanical pencils around here, actually.
Did Woolworths used to have a lunch counter?
Yes, they
Woolworths
did.
was famous for lunch counter.
Very
Yeah.
famous.
Okay.
Remember the sit-in?
Yeah.
Oh, that's they were Woolworths. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
we used to have a Woolworths and Tyson's when I was growing up, but I've never been to a Woolworths other than that.
There was one in Montgomery Mall. Woolworths always had like, as a kid, they always had like the best toy section of the stores. Like I remember you could get like Matchbox cars, and the knockoff Matchbox cars from Japan called pocket cars. And what's cool about them is all of them had like moving parts. The pocket cars, the doors would open, the hood would open, something like that. And those were only like 50 cents each. While Hot Wheels and Matchbox were like $1 a piece.
Yeah. Can you imagine like, trying to explain to school children today about what a 5 and dime was? That it was literally things were 5 and 10 cents.
And they had better stuff than dollar stores have, if you think about it. It was nickel and it wasn't made in China either back then. It was made in Japan or Hong Kong. Probably not even Japan at that point. Maybe Japan. Hong Kong, stuff like that. It wasn't made in China. Yeah. I remember there was this. I want to say there was some toy company that would make, like, they made the tractors and stuff. They were all made in Hong Kong, and they were metal. They were great. They could dig. Like they had scrapers. They had like a plow. They had the roll thing that flattens the roads. When they're paving the roads. They had a lot of cool
Like a
stuff.
steamroller.
Like that. Yeah. And they had cranes, and my brother had all those, and those were really good quality. He still has them, actually. They're metal, and he wouldn't let me play with them, but they were nice. They were nice to look at from afar.
I remember we used to go. You can get toys at the drugstores. Like, what was the biggie that? Drug Fair, maybe?
Yeah, Drug Fair. Fantle.
Yeah, or Fantles, Drug Fair. But you can get toys there. I used to get cap guns there and Halloween costumes there.
Yeah, when we were younger, it was People's, Drug Fair, and Dart Drug.
Yeah, that's right, Dart. I remember. Yeah.
I want to say, didn't Drug Fair also have like an ice cream counter? I seem to remember like they were like Highs. They also had like their own like ice cream.
It could have been.
Highs was great. They had the best ice cream I think around. Then seven.
Yeah, their ice cream was pretty good, and and then growing up here in the area, I spent a lot of time. My parents loved to go to Giffords for ice cream.
Oh yes, of course.
Yes.
That's famous.
Then Giffords got caught selling Briars or something random ice cream.
Yeah, I don't know. There was a bunch of stuff, and ice cream parlors, and costs and real estate and everything like that. Times changed. The name.
Well, Giffords didn't even have an inside, right? If I remember right, Giffords was you went to a window. It's like Rita's Ice, right?
No, you could sit down on the one in Silver
it?
Spring.
Okay, because there was one in Bethesda where you went to a window, you told them, they went to the next window, they gave it to you. And it was like,
Yeah, no, the one in Silver Spring was a full-fledged place. I mean,
was this the one over by the metro station? Was it like near where the
it was
Bill
right
Sanders
like
Ford
right
used to
next
be?
to the WGAY building.
Oh, over there. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but yeah, so I stopped following the saga of Giffords, but I mean, for years, I mean, it kind of
They did
underwent
come
this
back in 2010, if you remember.
tortuous journey of, getting sold off, and where we're now in that era of where if you go bankrupt, but you have like recipes and things like that or whatever, that's kind of intellectual property. So that's worth something. You sell that off.
Yeah.
And so, it may not be the original owners anymore, but you can still take. I mean, and then didn't we have a conversation about Roy Rogers? It's kind of like that.
Yeah.
I mean, Roy Marriott sold off Roy Rogers, and it was never quite the same, and there was a lot of problems. And now it's back, and the guys that are running it seem to be doing a halfway decent job, but it's just a whole different show now with all these things. It's like, oh, I get all nostalgic for that, but not quite the same.
Yeah, I mean, I liked Roy Rogers, but when I go today, I see because there are now Roy Rogers coming back. My problem is, I just think price-wise, it's not as good. I mean, you pay a lot you pay a premium for the.
Have you guys ever go to Cold Stone?
I haven't been there for a while.
It's highway robbery.
It's expensive. Yeah.
$7 for a scoop of ice cream, and then what am I impressed that you're gonna break up one cookie? It's not even like you use two. You get one cookie and you break it up in there and do it on some slab of marble or whatever they're using, or granite. It's like, am I supposed to be impressed by that? Come on. But still, I remember there was a little store over. You can get like for 10 cents, you get like a popsicle. About 15 cents, you get one of those like little cups of ice cream. They had, there's like about this big. They had little colors on the side, like orange or chocolate or whatever flavor it was. Would be inside. It'd be like a jelly type thing almost, but then you mix it in with ice cream, so you would taste the jelly. You get the flavoring in there. Hot fudge. Roy Rogers used to have really good hot fudge sundaes, by the way.
I think I remember that. Yeah.
So when you think about those little cups of ice cream, you remember eating them with a little wooden spoon thing?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
I do. And that was
That's what they do. Well, that's what they do when I used to go to the concerts at Jiffy Lube, the country music concert, Turkey Hill. They'd give out the ice cream as you'd leave. They'd give you a thing, and it had the spoon in it or on top of it, and it was just a little thing of ice cream. But they'd always give those out as you leave.
Those things used to be larger, by the way.
Yeah.
If you think
most things used to be larger.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I mean, I remember, what is it? I was just over at, where was I? Was that a Harris Teeter's? Oh, no, I was at Giant. I never really paid that close of attention to this. Maybe that's my fault. But, you get more ice cream in a Blue Bunny box of ice cream than you do from Briars or Turkey Hill. It's like a minuscule difference, but I mean, this kind of it's like as you know, Blue Bunny is actually significantly more than Briars. No wonder it costs like $1 more than Briars. Although, by the way, right now Briars ice cream, I think it's like 2 for $6 at Safeway. Really good deal.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So go out and get it. It's like see, prices are coming down. I still can't get over the $1.99 for these. This is great. $1.99.
Oh, that's good. That is a good deal.
Yeah, they made me buy 4 of them, but hey, it's still $1.99. Anyway, you slice it. Did I really
What is
need
that? What did you say? 4 of them? What?
You had to buy 4 packs to get the $1.99
To
price.
get to one? Okay.
That's not bad though. I mean, it's still worth it.
Yeah.
Although this is interesting. I was talking to Bats, our old producer. I have not had any candy this year at all.
Oh, wow.
So I'm actually rather. I figured I would have cracked on that by now, but I haven't. And Altoids don't count as candy in my book.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of like you. I mean, I decided I would try to cut out chocolate candy. I've got to work on some other sweets and things like
Hmm.
that. But you know, but that kind of left my wife in this little bind. She had bought a bunch of things from Costco, like Utah truffles and
Hmm.
some other things. And so we still have bags of this stuff lying around, or even like Halloween candy. I'm like, not eating it. I'm going to resist. So
I've got a whole 3 boxes of Halloween candy that I didn't give out. That's in the refrigerator right now. You know,
Wow.
uh, it's in the bag. I mean, I see it. I don't even. It's not even tempting anymore. It's like like, and I think the best way to see. I plan my resolutions for 90 days, and I think after 90 days, you really don't miss it anymore.
Yeah, that's probably true.
I mean, I gave up soda at one point
Wow.
for about almost 3 years. I gave up soda.
I'm impressed. That's not easy.
Now, I had a friend that knocked over my sobriety on that one soda. So I blame you, Dan. You know who you are.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I pretty much have not been drinking soda for years, for the most part, drinking
Mhm.
mostly, bottled
Well, you
water.
never really drank a lot of sodas, anyways. I mean, I think most you drink was a
I
Sprite.
used to, when I was younger, I used to drink soda a lot, but
I did too.
but the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years, I've
Mhm.
been trying to stick mostly to bottled water. Now the problem though is that if we do the Costco $1.50 soda and hot dog,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm getting a soda. So I used to get like the light lemonade or whatever they had
Yeah.
but my wife has kind of moved me to Diet Coke, and I'm like, I'm
Actually,
starting.
no, Don, Coke Zero is what you want.
Yeah, but that
Yeah,
wasn't
they don't.
at
Not everyone
Costco.
offers
At
Coke Zero.
Costco, they're doing Pepsi products. They will bring the Coke products in, but like when we've gone to Raising Cane's and stuff like that, I
Mhm.
basically have switched over to the Diet Coke so we
Is
can
there a
share
Raising
that.
Cane's in this area? Because I heard they got really good French fries.
What?
Raising Cane's. Is there
Raising
one around
Cane's has
here?
got very good French fries.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
They do the crinkle thing, crinkle cut.
Yeah. By the
Mm.
way, speaking of
That
French
chicken,
fries,
that is not an inexpensive, kind of fast food joint to eat at.
no,
But
neither is
they,
Cookout. By the way, if you ever go
but they,
to like the
yeah,
Southland or whatever, they
but
have been.
all they do is chicken. They don't have but I don't think but like 5 or 6 different things on the menu, and it's kind of like the chicken version of In and Out. You know,
Yeah.
In and Out's got a very simple menu. Here's your choices. You choose among that. You can go off menu and do
Hmm.
animal stuff, if you know how to do that. But at Raising Cane's, you basically are buying nothing but chicken. They don't go outside the chicken thing, and we don't know what the heck they do and how they prepare and cook that chicken, but it's like the tenderest chicken we've ever
Is it
had at
like
a fast food place.
is it like KFC?
Oh, it's way better. And they have a thing called, they serve it with this cane sauce, and I don't know what's
Hmm.
in that. It's kind of like having, what's the secret behind the Big Mac sauce? Well, there's some secret behind the cane sauce because they you get that with the meal, and it's like, man, this stuff is good.
It's like that cheese sauce you get at Papa John's with their pizzas. It's really good. Actually,
Yeah.
they only send it if you get the cheesy bread, but I always pay extra for it to get it because it's a good way to use your crust up when you're done. Yeah. But it's prices are stabilizing. I think. I saw a couple of memes out there. The price of eggs have fallen. Uh,
Well, yeah, I don't, let me say something. I mean, so, my friend who does the show with my show on Wednesday with me, he throws out this number the other day that I hadn't seen before the show about egg prices coming down 79%. And I'm thinking, like, where the heck did that number come from? And then I found out that Trump had been, parroting that number. And I'm like, I need to, do you guys know where the heck that number came from? Because egg prices have not dropped 79% in the last few months. I mean, I'd have to go back and look at the peak egg prices to see where they are today, but I think that that number is way off target. I mean, I went to Costco. I was over Costco today and I was checking their price. So, it's 3.86 a dozen. But that's Costco doing their normal low price, versus other places on that. So, so it's there, it's hanging in there. Uh, but it's certainly, I mean, if egg prices have fallen 79%, the egg prices at Costco would be far cheaper than they are today.
Mm.
hmm But I mean, it's gonna take. It's a slow process, But then again, one thing I've noticed, prices that go up, they seldom go down. They seldom go down. We just kind of get caught up with it. It's like if you look at the price of gas, right? They kept going up, and now we think $2.80 gas is a bargain, when in reality it's still like $1 more than where I'd like it to be.
Yeah.
You know, but I
Yeah,
think it's
people have said gas prices have come down. I really haven't noticed. I filled up today, and it still seemed about the same. But maybe my memory is false.
I mean,
Or,
I fill up
No,
over at
yeah,
go
go
ahead.
ahead, Doug. Yeah.
I fill up over at Royal Farms over by Goddard, and I've noticed those prices actually have gone up to over. They used to be like below $3. Now they're like a little over $3 now.
yeah, I
Yeah.
paid
And
over
by the way,
$3 today.
Right. So this is kind of a weird thing lately because, you know, with all the talk about the tariffs and a lot of other things, oil prices, when Trump came into office, they were about $80 a barrel. They went down to $60 a barrel, and we saw pretty much no movement in the gas price.
no,
Now gas prices tend to move slower on the downside. They want, the oil, the companies want to recapture some of the potential lost profits when they don't, move them up, quite as fast as they need to. But they slow it down on the downward path. But the gas prices have barely budged. I mean, AAA is at 321 nationwide. It was at 326 like a week ago, so it hasn't really moved down very much. And I know where I'm living here, I've seen gas prices go up or stay the same.
yeah.
You know,
I mean, like I
yeah,
go to the Sheets by you, on Rockville
about
Pike, Hungerford. I go to the Sheets there when I go to Patel Brothers, right? They also used to be below $3. Now they're over $3 also for the gas. The Royal Farms is like that. The Wawa's is over $3 also over on Hungerford Drive. Is that what they call it there, or is it called still Rockville Pike there? 355. Let's make it simple. But one of the things I don't like about all the, those little, I hate this about Royal Farms. Every time I go there, get gas, get coffee, they always want me to put in my freaking phone number. It's like, no, give me a little thing I can just wave like at Wawa's, and I don't have to punch in the numbers. I don't want to touch those filthy screens anyways. It's like, they defeat the purpose of paying by tap by making you still put the PIN number in. Like, what is this? And then they want you to put your phone number in to get your ROFO discounts, and I've been doing. I haven't seen any ROFO discounts. I think it's a RO fraud, is what that is. I don't know what I'm supposed to get. Then again, I remember when Safeway first brought their card out. Like on my birthday, I'd get a little thing for free, half gallon of ice cream. It'd be their house brand ice cream, so there's nothing to really write home, but it's free ice cream, is free ice cream, right? As a mutual friend of ours would say, free is free, right? Free fries Fridays,
Well, you
but
guys,
now, You don't
We
get
don't
it?
have Royal Farms. You guys have Royal Farms. We don't have. I don't believe there's a Royal Farms in Virginia.
No, there is. You got to go past Richmond.
Oh,
It's
really?
not that way. Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
I mean, it's a Maryland-based company, by the way.
Yeah,
okay.
didn't it come out of Baltimore mainly? And I
Yep,
mean, it's kind of making its
out of
way.
Baltimore. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, remember
You know
They
who
Crown?
also,
used? You know
The
who used
Crown
that?
gas stations were, I thought, a Maryland thing. Remember Crown?
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, they're now Ewing Oil or something like that, or
Oh, really? Okay.
yeah, something like
Well, I
that.
mean,
Or the,
yeah, that depends on who they sold to. I mean, the one in the one, where I used to live, has been a shell for a number of years, for example.
Mm,
So,
mm.
I
yeah,
remember well, Crown was a big oil company. They used to have Matchbox car Crown trucks. You could buy a Crown tanker truck. You know, the Super Kings Matchbox. And then you could also actually you had back then. So you could get a Texaco. You could get a Exxon. Yeah, Matchbox had all the big oil company trucks. The Shell truck. They didn't have the Hess truck. By the way, Hess used to be really inexpensive gas too. You guys had one by LI, which is now gone, but there was one near there.
Yeah, we have had Hessels. Yeah, we've had those. Yeah.
You know, but now only Hess that I know of is like in Baltimore County near Rosedale.
But one of the things that was a West Coast thing was, remember 76?
Oh yeah,
76
we had
gas.
those around here. Was that Gulf oil? Though? Was that the same as Gulf?
But we have them now certainly. But when I was a kid, it was a
Mm-hmm.
Western thing, and the
Mm-hmm.
reason I would think of that gas station is because the L.A. Dodgers in center field had the 76 logo.
Yeah.
So I always thought about 76 gas station, even though as a kid we didn't have them here.
I mean, we
yeah.
also had
So
Atlantic Richfield.
when I was growing up, it was Union 76.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yes, it was just that it was like that, like 76, like in a
There's like
big
a
orange
M with a
thing.
76 written on it. A giant orange chocolate M&M.
What's funny about 76 is that it's actually owned by Phillips 66.
Oh,
Is it
wow.
really?
I didn't
Is
know that.
Phillips still in business? Because I don't see them anymore either. Weren't they bought by Marathon?
No, I don't know. I mean that they're owned.
Or
No, I
Valero?
mean 76, as I said, is owned by Phillips 66, and they're still around because
Mm,
that's Phillips Conoco.
okay.
Okay. Yeah, I think they branded their gas station now called Conoco's because I do see Conoco stations when I'm driving.
Mm,
By the way, if Valero and if Exxon were to the buy Valero and ConocoPhillips, you've recreated Standard Oil. Standard Oil would be back, and I'd love it if Exxon changed their name to Standard Oil just to mess with the lefties' heads.
Well, you look at that. I mean, you've seen big oil slowly, almost but surely, almost start to go back to what it was right before it was broken up. And look what happened to the phone company, right? You break up
Yeah,
Ma
now it's
Bell,
just Verizon and AT&T. Now if they
you break,
merged,
but we're getting, we're moving ever so closer to the old Ma Bell.
yeah. Well, actually, I really want Verizon to buy AT&T, and then it would be and they change their name to Ma Bell. Because I mean, look at the cell phone companies. There used to be a lot. You had Nextel, you had Sprint, you had GT. What do you call? What was the one that they bought AT&T, but they brand everything as AT&T? Singular, yeah, Singular Wireless. And now you just have wireless carriers are just Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile. You don't have any other. There's no real options out there.
It's pretty
Although
much.
you can get Mint Mobile, and I think Comcast in some markets is offering cell service too.
Yeah, but Mint Mobile. I think T-Mobile bought Mint Mobile, right? So
Did they?
yeah.
I don't know. T-Mobile just seems like the trashiest of trashy phone
But
companies, frankly.
but that was the stock to own in the telecom space.
T-Mobile,
They
yeah.
they T, T-Mobile has been a fabulous stock for those that got
Oh yeah.
in.
I mean, the stock's good, but the company just seems so trashy. It's like I don't know. Maybe it's just I don't know. Maybe I'm used to going to AT&T and Verizon stores. So I go to a T-Mobile store. It's like they seem like they're a bunch of hooligans that are running the place.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, and cellular service is always kind of interesting because it can be so different from place to place around the country. Um,
Yeah, I mean,
we
T-Mobile has no service in Western Maryland.
yeah, and
Mm.
you know, so in like in Arizona where Spencer was, I mean, they're part of our he was on our plan for AT&T, and so when he got married, his wife switched over from T-Mobile to our AT&T plan. But when they went like I don't know, was it 10 or 15 miles down the
Mhm.
road to visit the in-laws, the AT&T service was horrible. So after Spencer passed and she moved back in with her parents, she switched over back to T-Mobile because she says T-Mobile service in her house was good.
Mhm.
It's just like, okay, this is just kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean, AT&T does have even like, where NIH is done, NIH in Wisconsin Avenue. I will get so many dropped calls right there. And the other place is on Old Georgetown by NIH. It drops calls. NASA over at Goddard. There's a couple of places on campus. It's like in a valley. It's like a dead zone. There's this one building, building number 25. People have seen foxes in that building, snakes, mice, other vermin, raccoons. Yeah, that building has no cell service at all. And that's also the only building on Goddard's campus that still has rotary phones. Now, hopefully they'll tear that building down and put a new building there with better cell service. But
Well,
it is what it is.
if Doge saves enough money, maybe they can funnel some over for new buildings.
Hmm.
Well, I mean, NASA actually is doing pretty well. I mean, and as I was telling people today, Doge is really, more going after the enemies of Trump, like over at HHS. People that cost him the 2020 elections, like Fauci and Collins and those guys, they're all paying the brunt of this ire, so to speak. Department of Education, another thorn in the president's side. They're going after them.
Well, there's no doubt that that Trump, the administration has gone, after those people, right? I mean, they've been swept up in a lot of these things, and
I'm waiting for indictments to can't be handed down from DOJ for Fauci and Collins.
Well,
yeah,
he got
but
a pardon. Didn't Fauci get a pardon, right?
Oh, that's right, he did for anything and anything he might do in the future.
And I don't know about Francis Collins. I don't know about him, but
I think I think Biden gave a lot of those people pardons. I think Collins probably also got a pardon.
yeah, maybe.
It's
There are books out now. I don't know if you've checked. I haven't read any of them yet, but that Biden was really out of it. They talk about he was at the debate prep and he ended early, I think, every session. And then once he ended early because it was in Delaware, I guess, near his home, went out on the beach and just fell asleep. And he's just,
opposed to what they call it afternoon.
yeah,
By the way, if really good book to get is Larry O'Connor's book, Shameless Liars. It is an awesome book, well worth the. It's free for Kindle, evidently.
whose book is it?
Larry O'Connor's from WMAL.
Okay.
It's called Shameless Liars. He basically talks about all the lies and so on, First Amendment freedoms and so on. And looks like Amazon has it for free on Kindle. But you get an audiobook for 99 cents. A hardcover is $29.13, and a paperback is $16. Those are good prices. And I think Larry's really good. I'm surprised he isn't. This is like his first book. You think Larry would have had like about a half a dozen books out by now?
No.
But it's a really good book to check out. But we're at final thoughts, everyone. It is 7:55.
we have talked a little politics, right, David?
Yes, we did. In the beginning, we did. And everything
Well,
comes home. Everything comes home, Don. Yeah, we talked about
we'll
the
start now, but
prices,
if you
grocery
want me to go
stores.
first,
Yeah,
I
go,
will.
Dave. Yeah, go for it.
Well, I got a column coming. It's on this kerfuffle in the Oval Office with Gretchen Whitmer. and Trump praised her. Very nice. And so there's conspiracy theories that maybe he was doing it because he thought it might sink her politically. So anyway, I wrote up a little piece. I'll have it up tonight on that, and that I think it's totally off base. I don't think he had any intention of trying to hurt her politically. And if you watch the press conference, it's kind of obvious that he was interested in talking about what she was talking about in terms of Michigan. So it really had nothing to do with the politics of that. Otherwise, doing okay. Looking forward to hopefully a good weekend and starting to try to follow the baseball season, at least in seeing how the teams are doing. The Orioles
Magic.
Yeah.
Magic.
And the Orioles and the Nats are about the same sort of start. I mean, I guess they're close to 500. I mean, it hasn't been many games yet, but
We have Magic, they don't.
but well, I will try to keep an eye on the Orioles though this year because I've been going to Maryland and been meeting a lot of Marylanders, and so I'll give them a shot and try to follow the Orioles a little bit this year.
Yeah, they've lost 2 in a row, but it's fine. They're only 2 games out of 500.
Yeah,
3 games out of 500, I should say, and that's good enough for me.
But otherwise, just check my Substacks, and that's about it.
Yeah. Okay. Don, final thoughts?
Yeah, a few different things. I mean, Elon Musk and Peter Navarro not on the same page.
That's true.
That whole thing just cracks me up because Musk is always going to be Musk, but I mean, calling him, dumber, dumber than a stack of bricks, and Peter retardo, and stuff like this. It makes me laugh. It is so Elon and all this. Navarro. I mean, he's a loyal MAGA guy. And Musk is very much, he's got those libertarian leanings, and he definitely is kind of a zero tariff guy. So, they've been butting heads, and I think those things kind of came to a head because the way the market had reacted after the stiff tariffs went into effect. So, maybe some of that will bad blood will ease a little bit more, but that it seems to have just made the kind of the demands or the noise for getting Musk out of his role sooner rather than later. I think that's been louder, but you got to give Musk credit. I mean, they've overall, you may not always agree with them, and I think the methodology sometimes is a little whack, but they've made some pretty good inroads. Mm-hmm. So which has just driven liberals crazy. I think, and David is talking about that, Whitmer thing too, is that, you see, if you're a Democrat or a liberal, you cannot visit the White House, without the Democrats and the liberals, right, saying like, it is like, are you now supporting Trump? What's going on here? That's their knee-jerk reaction now is, the hatred on Trump is so high that they just can't get away from it.
Can you imagine if one of these Democrats had one of Trump's books from when he was a Democrat and all the Democrats loved him? And you go to their house and he'd be like stoned or burned at the stake, for having.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. I agree.
Yeah, it's just such a crazy notion. So Eugene Robinson this past week, left the Washington Post. So he's yet another liberal that has left the Post. Really,
is he going to do something with Don Lemon and Joy Reid?
Yeah, who knows? I mean, he's saying like, watch out for his next chapter. I mean, he's not a spring chicken anymore either.
I bet they all end up on News Nation.
Who knows?
They all end. You have Don Lemon.
Yeah, but it's interesting to see. I mean, Jeff Bezos talks about, what he wants the paper to be, and so the liberals are like, no. I mean, they've all risen up in arms and they've been leaving one after the other, and so I don't know. Catherine Graham is probably turning over in her grave at the changes at the Post.
Yeah,
and Bezos left the paper alone for a while. And and the changes that he wants to make, led to a lot of cancellations of subscriptions. But
Yeah.
you know, this is the Trump effect. I mean, this is directly the Trump effect
Hmm.
on Jeff Bezos, and then he has then put it onto the Washington Post, and they want to change direction of the newspaper.
Well, I think it's if they get to be where the Washington Star used to be, that's a win in my book. They'll never be like the Washington Times, but they'll be if they can get over to where the Washington Star was a fair and balanced newspaper. But I wonder what's really going through Bob Woodward's head right now and Paul Bernstein's right now, and or even Bill Bradley for that man, not Ben Bradley.
Ames' old friend.
Yeah.
Our
Hey, do you
South
think those
Friend.
maybe like if it were the old days, they'd all team up and start their own rival newspaper? But we don't know.
Mm.
Maybe they'll all have their own Substacks.
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean,
Ben Bradley
the
Substack.
liberals thought, this is a lot like Elon, right? The liberals loved Elon, and now that he's gone over to the dark side with Trump, they're selling their vehicles and whatnot. Just this whole crazy reaction. You know, S- Jeff Bezos, they love Bezos because they said he's the savior. The Post was in deep financial trouble. You've got a billionaire who was basically had a hands-off policy more or less for the newspaper. So he saved jobs and he saved the paper. But as soon as he starts putting in kind of a more middle of the road libertarian, free market, whatever, kind of leanings, he wants to see something better on the pages of the Post. The liberals are having a real hard time with that. They're fleeing, they're complaining, they're saying, oh, what happened to our free speech? This is not journalism, et cetera, et cetera. The First Amendment, oh, blah, blah, blah. So lots of whining and, Sturm and Drang, from the liberals for all of this. And then I guess, I'll end it with sport. Mine with sports is that congratulations to Alex Ovechkin, the great eight. Uh, an amazing career that he's had. Uh, he ties Wayne Gretzky for the all-time, score lead, and then surpasses that. So he is now the leading scorer in NHL history. This is something that will be, a record unlikely to be matched again. This is pretty unattainable. It takes a
I
lot
mean,
to get there.
Gretzky's record was pretty unattainable. Also.
I mean, Ovechkin, here's the thing about it. I mean, here's a guy who's like 39 years old. He's
Yeah.
played his entire career with the Capitals,
Yep.
and he missed like 16 games because of a broken leg this year, and yet he came back to actually break the
Hmm.
record, Gretzky scoring record. Now Gretzky also was, once again, it's hard to compare people in different times and different eras because the other part of hockey is, what is our assists. And Gretzky had like, I don't know, what was it, 1,700 something assists or whatever. That's Ovechkin's not that kind of guy. He doesn't have anywhere near that number. But still, the durability of Ovechkin, that breaking his leg was like the first real major injury he'd had in his career, and that's what you have to have is that you have to, in order to get to those records, you've got to avoid the injuries.
Hmm.
You look at baseball. Mike Trout is a great baseball player, but he's been so injured. I mean, he was the next second coming of like Babe Ruth or whatever. He and Bryce Harper were going to be the big stars, of baseball.
Bryce, who now?
Harper has stayed more injury free, not quite as much,
Yeah.
not quite completely injury free, but he has been able to avoid a lot of injuries where Trout has been perennially injured. And as he's aging, things are, he's slowing down. He's not doing as much. He can't. But there was a guy who was destined to, to maybe potentially break a few records here and there for things. He was such a talented baseball player, but injuries have really hurt his career. If you remember the name of Ken Griffey Jr., right? Great
Yeah.
baseball player, could have broken a lot of records in a lot of ways, but his career was derailed by injuries. So that's the thing about sports. Injuries all of a sudden change your trajectory. Um, but they're still great ball players nevertheless. So anyway, back to you, Dwight.
Okay. For one, I want to share with you guys. We've got a new young writer for the Republican Club. He is 19-year-old Ian Schwartz. His dad and I are old friends from many moons ago. And I got a call, hey, I'd like to try some writing. But here's some of his writing. It is hilariously funny. He kind of views himself as he's a psych major at Georgetown. But he's also a part-time comedian. He writes hilariously funny stuff. Like, this is actually the only serious piece he's done for us. But yet, you can see the picture. He doesn't look that serious, frankly. But he's got some great stuff. He just sent me this great piece on Baltimore Democrats. And he's got a great little cartoon of William Donald Schaefer lecturing the last three mayors of Baltimore. And it's hilarious. Check him out, MontgomeryCountyRepublicClub.com. And he's got some hilarious stuff. It's funny. He's got a lot of one-liners. He did a great article on how Annapolis picked your pockets this past session. So welcome aboard, Ian. I look forward to more and more of your funny commentaries. But school first.
That one serious piece there, I may want to pick that up and put it on AIA's page.
Yeah, actually, he's actually working on another one. He's got Passover this weekend, but he's got another one he's working on, the media and how Jamie Raskins. Here, I'll send you the link afterwards. But if you can just click his name, or actually at the bottom of the page, it's this one on Georgetown University. And he's actually got a couple other pieces that are, this is the one where he kind of started going funny. These were kind of all serious, But then you come down here and it's like just comedy gold. So he's got some really good stuff in there. So we expect more good things coming out of Ian. And it's funny, his dad's a big Democrat too. Also, we've got, I am now the interim vice chair of the Maryland Republican Party.
Yeah, congratulations on that too. I saw that they mentioned it. So what happened? The other guy resigned? Yes,
he resigned. It was kind of a Jerry Ewing situation, but we've got we've got the convention coming up, and we have an election there, so I will be running. I don't know if I have any opponents. I think I've got 2 opponents right now, from what I understand. But hey, I plan to run, I plan to win. And so, yeah. And the convention is going to be in Cambridge, Maryland, a lovely little town. I believe Cambridge is also the unofficial home of Harriet Tubman, or somewhere around there. I could be wrong. But, and it's going to be a fun convention, May 2nd and 3rd. Come on out. Come on, come all. Also going on is I want to do a shout out to Governor Ehrlich. Please run for governor. We need a good governor again. We need a governor that cuts spending, doesn't raise taxes, and gives us a surplus at the end of the day. Please run, governor. And with that, that is it. Oh, one more thing. The Black Republican Councils on May 15th, they have a Lincoln Reagan dinner with Governor Bob Ehrlich over at the Elks Lodge in Edgewater, Maryland, which is right outside of Annapolis. So come on, tickets are pretty cheap, $85 each. Go to the Black Republican Council website, blackrepublicancouncil.com, and get your tickets there. And now that's it. Good night, everyone, and we're off to Masoni's.
Let's go down to Masoni's, where Italian cuisine shines.